Now we're starting to see that the Democrats have been able to seize back at least a portion of that, of these states back into their wing. And that's a good sign for them, because that is the swing. And if you can hold on to that into the coming presidential election,
right, that's going to be a big boost.
Yeah, that's going to be a big boost for them. And
all right, interesting. You know, elections are so complex. I mean, we're still trying to decode what happened in Donald Trump's election, and still the fallout is being seen. So, but it's important to see at this point, Dr. Cholia, and I'm going to come to Pramit as well for this question. What happens in the midterms and with the divided House, does it impact India, so to speak? Because there are several legislations that will come up. There are visa issues, immigration issues, so many other issues. Will that have any impact on us sitting here in India?
Well, I think, Sana,
or for Indians who are working in America.
Yeah, you know, I think the majority of Indian Americans tend to be pro-Democrat historically. There is, you know, there are different reasons for it. One of the main being, you know, just the demographic spread of our diaspora is more in these cosmopolitan urban centers, where the air is more accepting of minorities and all that. But on the other hand, you know, we have a congressional caucus which is bipartisan. And we've got, you know, both Republicans, Democrats who've been lobbying for Indian interests for a long time. And they often work in unison on this issue, because many of them believe about India as a major democratic counterweight to communist China. And many of them believe that, you know, this is the defining partnership of the 21st century, as many American presidents have been saying. But I think what we need to watch out for is the trade, and that's the central question really, because the House, although there is a USTR and they have got power, the White House and the executive has power to you know, enter into deals and to also challenge you know, trade actions of other countries. There is also a role for Congress, especially at the level of committees, be it on the House External Affairs or also national security and trade. This is where, you know, we can actually find more challenge to President's actions, and where we will have room to be able to maneuver to further divide, because there are actions of Trump administration that have affected us in the past and have created uncertainty and even dismay in India. Right. And we will want to use the legislative, the new ground that is coming up from January, the new makeup of the Congress, to be able to further stymie any kind of anti-India measures against us by using all the levers. America is a sophisticated system with many different checks and balances. And the more there are checks and balances, the better it is for us, I believe, rather than to have, you know, a president who lacks a strategic vision. We've been lamenting it, but now it's time for us to move to the next level and say, how do we leave the steady state, as somebody called it, is going to restrain the president's worst instincts.
It seems to me that after the midterms, to expect anything drastic to happen is unrealistic. Pramit, what do you feel about this? Will we see any changes? Will it impact our lives? Will it impact India-US dynamics, perhaps, with the Democrats now having a say?
Well, let's look at four issues that are probably of greatest interest to Indians. One is the overall increasing confrontational approach of America towards China. There is a complete consensus. The Democrats and the Republicans are fully in agreement on this. So the only slight difference on whether you should use tariffs or something else, but the entire system there is, there will be no change on that. Nancy Pelosi, for example, who will now be the new Speaker of the House, is violently anti-Chinese. She's very close to the Dalai Lama and has been very clear on this front. So you will see no change on the China front. The second issue where India and the United States differ slightly is on Russia, where we've seen India not being all that happy with the American position on sanctions against Russia. Unfortunately, that will not change, and I don't think we'll see a change either on the Iran sanctions. And in fact, it has been the U.S. Congress on both the Republican and Democratic sides have joined hands to impose those sanctions on Russia and Iran. So we will not see much difference there. However, there is a bipartisan consensus that they do not want those sanctions to impact, or at least minimize its impact, on the India-U.S. relationship, for which there has been no difference in either party. On trade, I don't think there will be all that much difference, because the Republicans have traditionally been the free trade party of the United States. It's not the Democrats. They've never been supportive of trade agreements. And one of the tests is going to be that the new NAFTA that has been renegotiated, whether or not a Democratic Congress will approve this when it goes before the vote in the U.S. With both houses, but definitely in the House of Representatives, and whether they will give an approval to that. So we'll see where that goes.
Right.
The final issue, as we mentioned, is immigration. The Democrats are much more supportive of immigration, but right now immigration has become such a hot button issue that I would suspect that there will be no real attempt to change that, partly because they will not be able to get the Senate on board anyway. So there will be some symbolic battles over asylum and so on, but we should not expect H-1B visas to change, and we should not expect the issue of green card Indians holding green cards becoming citizens. That was supposed to be something the Democrats had pushed, that should be made easier.
Right.
Because it's a run-up, in effect, to the presidential elections in 2020, both sides, the Democrats will be reluctant to push a hot-button issue where they know a lot of American voters, even their own supporters, are allergic to.
But it's a sort of a new phase if you look at Donald Trump's presidency, and it will be interesting to see how that pans out leading up to the next presidential election there. What is it that Donald Trump is able to carry on in terms of, efforts from his party's side, and how the Democrats are able to push on their agenda. We'll have to leave it at that. Thanks so much, Pramit and Dr. Sriram Sundar Cholia, for joining me on this very, very interesting discussion on the impact of the U.S. midterm polls.